On a road trip for the holidays, my boyfriend and my best friend tricked me into a remote wilderness area, then threw me out of the car to fend for myself. I sighed as I watched the dust kick up from the SUV speeding away. What I hadn't told them was that the map in the car was reversed, the gas tank was nearly empty, and they'd never make it out of this exclusion zone. They also had no idea that the satellite phone was in my pocket. And they definitely didn't know that among the supplies packed in the trunk were several large, bloody cuts of beef. Since they wanted to cook up such a cruel way to get rid of me, the least I could do was treat them to dinner with a grizzly bear. Of course, in all likelihood, they'd be the ones getting eaten. Chloe, I just want to switch seats with you, that's all. You can't even do that? You're being so selfish. My boyfriend Kevin's angry voice rattled in my ears. It was the first day of our road trip into the mountains, and this was already the third time Kevin had started a fight with me. The first was because he wanted some water and I didn't hand him his bottle quickly enough. The second was because I was sitting in the passenger seat finishing up a project proposal, and he claimed the sound of my keyboard was distracting his driving. The third was right now. We'd only been on the road for an hour and a half when my best friend, Jenna, said she was uncomfortable in the back and wanted to switch with me. I was in the passenger seat because it was easier to work on my laptop. I was just putting the finishing touches on the proposal, so I told Jenna I'd switch with her as soon as I was done. I never expected that simple sentence to set Kevin off. He pulled the car over and started screaming at me. It was strange. Kevin wasn't normally an angry person, but maybe he'd been under a lot of stress lately, because he'd started yelling at me over the smallest things. His personality had changed so drastically it was like he was a completely different person. I glanced at the rearview mirror. Here I was, getting into a fight with my boyfriend because of her, and Jenna, my supposed best friend, should have at least said a word or two to defend me. But right now, she had no intention of speaking up. In fact, her eyes held a flicker of gleeful anticipation. What was she anticipating? While I was still pondering this, Kevin, as if he couldn't stand it another second, got out of the driver's seat and stalked over to my side of the car. I knew exactly what he was going to do next. Unbuckle my seatbelt and drag me out of the car. My brow furrowed. Before he could open the passenger door, I unbuckled myself, climbed over the center console, and dropped right into the driver's seat. My sudden move stunned both Kevin and Jenna. Jenna asked, "Chloe, what are you?" Kevin yanked open the passenger door. I casually slipped my laptop into my document bag next to me. Without looking at Kevin, I turned to Jenna with a smile and said, "Jenna, since you're not comfortable in the back, why don't you take the passenger seat? Kevin can sit in the back." Kevin's mouth fell open, as if he wanted to object, but I cut him off. Besides, Kevin's been driving for a while. He should take a break in the back. I'll drive for a bit. I even gave them a thoughtful smile. My act of being so considerate of them both left them speechless. Jenna feigned concern. "But your proposal?" "It can wait," I said with a smile. Jenna was smiling too, but the corners of her mouth looked a little forced. Kevin's face was a mask of frustration, but in the end he didn't say anything. He just snorted heavily and switched places with Jenna. With the argument settled, the SUV was back on the road. Jenna kept trying to liven up the mood, acting as if nothing had happened. I kept a smile on my face too, even occasionally trying to talk to Kevin, who was sulking in the back. I acted like I hadn't given the little spat a second thought. But deep down, the alarm bells were already ringing. What were Kevin and Jenna really up to? And when did this strange feeling start? I thought back carefully and finally pinpointed it. 1 month ago. My parents died in an accident when I was in high school. They left me 2 houses and enough money in savings to live comfortably for the rest of my life. After going through such a major family tragedy, I was never very interested in dating. Jenna was a colleague from my company. We became best friends after grabbing lunch together all the time. At a department party once, Jenna accidentally found out about my family situation and insisted on setting me up with someone. I figured it was time I gave romance a try, and that's how Kevin and I got together. But I had no experience with relationships, and I poured most of my energy into my work, so things between Kevin and I moved slowly. It wasn't until 6 months ago that I finally started to let my guard down with him. But that sweet period lasted less than half a year. A month ago, I suddenly noticed that Kevin and Jenna were talking to each other a lot more. Once on a date, I accidentally glimpsed his phone and saw some flirty chat logs between them. From that day on, Kevin started picking fights with me constantly. I thought he was just tired of me and was even ready to break up with him at any moment. But then a week ago, he suddenly said he wanted to go on a road trip with me. He even paid for everything himself, planned out the route, and bought all the necessary gear. All we had to do was wait for the holiday weekend to start. At the time, I thought it was his way of trying to save our relationship. I was even a little touched. But judging by everything that had happened today, it seemed I was just being naive. If this wasn't about saving our relationship, could it be about money? A muscle in my forehead twitched. I suddenly remembered a story from 2 years ago. A couple and their friend went camping on a road trip through a remote region, and their friend was attacked and killed by a grizzly bear in the middle of the night. In that instant, a chilling cold crept up from the soles of my feet and consumed my entire body. And just like that, everything that hadn't made sense before suddenly clicked into place. On all our past trips, wasn't I always the one who made the plans? Whenever I asked, Kevin would say he was a guy and didn't know anything about planning. He'd tell me to just handle it all. Jenna would say she was too careless and forgetful, not as detail-oriented as me, and that she trusted me completely. So for every trip, I was the one who paid for everything and did all the work. But this road trip was planned on a whim. In fact, I didn't even know we were heading into the mountains until the moment we left. Kevin said he and Jenna had planned the trip together as a surprise for me, which is why they didn't tell me until the last minute. They said they had prepared everything, and all I had to do was relax and enjoy the scenery. They didn't want me to prepare anything, because they didn't want me to have any defenses, did they? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. No wonder they both looked so strange when I took over the driver's seat. Could it be that the only reason Kevin got with me was for my money? A sarcastic smile crept across my lips. How tragic. That night, we checked into a motel in a small town. Kevin booked 3 separate rooms, saying it would let all of us get a good night's rest. Jenna glanced at me. Chloe, Kevin's just trying to do what's best for us. Her words were loaded with meaning. My face was a mask of calm as I smiled and said, "That's fine. We can all get a good rest tonight." Then I casually asked, "By the way, what's our route for tomorrow?" Kevin didn't say a word. Jenna pretended to check the notes on her phone. "We're not sure yet. Why don't we figure it out tomorrow?" I was about to say more, but Kevin cut me off. "Let's worry about tomorrow. It's a road trip. We can go wherever we want." I nodded, not pressing the issue, just like always. I faked a yawn, looking exhausted. "Okay then. Let's all get to bed early tonight." As I took the key card from Kevin, just before leaving, I leaned in close to Jenna's ear and whispered, "Jenna, you should definitely take a shower tonight." Without waiting to see her reaction, I headed upstairs. My room was on the 2nd floor, Kevin and Jenna's rooms were on the 3rd. We had just arrived at a high altitude. Anyone with a bit of common sense knows you don't shower on your first night up high. So why did I say that to Jenna? Because I was certain that Kevin and Jenna wouldn't pass up the opportunity to be alone together tonight. And Jenna had a little problem with body odor. She usually drenched herself in perfume, so most people never noticed. But Kevin had deliberately booked 3 rooms tonight. During a night of passion, that smell would become particularly noticeable. Even though Jenna had experience with high altitudes, would she really be willing to embarrass herself in front of Kevin? I didn't believe for a second she wouldn't shower. That night, I washed up, went to bed, and slept soundly. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed and full of energy. After breakfast, I waited in the lobby for Kevin and Jenna. Even before they got close, I could see the exhaustion on their faces. "You two look like you didn't sleep well," I asked innocently. A strange look flashed across Kevin's face. Jenna's eyes darted around. "Maybe it's a little bit of altitude sickness?" Kevin quickly jumped in. "Yeah, probably just feeling a bit sick from the altitude." Even if they both had experience with high altitudes, they had been living at sea level for almost a year before this trip. If you shower on your first night, altitude sickness will get you. I wanted to laugh, but I held it in. Instead, I gave them a very understanding smile. Well, if you're both not feeling well, I should probably drive today. Their expressions changed slightly, but I was the picture of consideration. It's too dangerous to drive with altitude sickness. I'll drive to a pharmacy, you guys can get some medicine, and then rest in the car. How about whoever feels better first can take over for me? Kevin's expression clearly relaxed. Jenna also smiled and said, "We'll have to trouble you then, Chloe." After we got in the car, I asked them which route we were taking today. Without hesitation, Jenna pulled up the navigation on her phone and told me to just follow that. I glanced at the areas we'd be passing through and suddenly turned to look at them in the back seat. I stared at them for a moment, but I couldn't see any trace of malice in their eyes. And that's what made me even sadder. The destination was an exclusion zone, and the route only had 2 rest stops. It seemed they really wanted me dead, but their faces showed not a single shred of guilt about sending me to my death. And we had known each other for over a year. A small smile played on my lips. So sad. The 3 of us set off again. I drove around the small town for a bit and quickly found a pharmacy. Kevin got out to buy some medicine for altitude sickness. After taking it, he and Jenna closed their eyes and started to rest. Meanwhile, I followed the route Jenna gave me, driving at a leisurely pace. Around noon, we arrived at a rest stop to take a break. Kevin ordered me, "You go get gas. Jenna and I are going to grab some food." As if I had no temper at all, I nodded obediently. Just as I pulled into a parking spot, I saw a young man sitting on the ground not far away. He was wearing a leather jacket and had a scruffy beard. He was squatting by the entrance to the rest area with a few brand new English books in front of him. Next to him was a bag that looked bloody. Seeing me approach, the young man asked, "Buy a book? It comes with a free map." I looked down at the books on the ground, then after a long moment asked, "How much?" $20, the young man said with a smile. Without hesitating, I pulled out my phone, paid him, and took an English book and a map from his hand. When Kevin and Jenna came back, I was sitting in the car, flipping through the all-English book. Seeing this, Kevin asked, "What's that book?" I smiled. "A mystery thriller, but it's all in English." With that, I handed the book to Kevin. He didn't even glance at it, and Jenna was even less interested. They tossed it onto the seat. "Hurry up and eat your noodles. We need to get back on the road. We have to make it to the next rest stop before dark," Kevin said. I put the book in my backpack and nodded. "Okay." That night, we reached the last rest stop on this stretch of road. After resting for a night, Kevin and Jenna seemed to have fully recovered. They looked much better than the day before. In the morning, before we were about to leave, Kevin and Jenna went to the restroom while I struck up a chat with one of the rest stop employees. We started talking about the route for the day. The employee was very kind and carefully explained the road conditions ahead. He warned me not to take a wrong turn and accidentally enter the exclusion zone. You know, there's no cell signal in the exclusion zone, and it's full of wild animals, wolves, grizzly bears. It's really dangerous. I listened and nodded gravely. When I saw Kevin and Jenna walking over, I raised my voice slightly, making sure they could both hear. "Don't worry, I'll definitely stay on the right path. I won't accidentally wander into the exclusion zone." The moment I said that, I clearly saw Kevin's face darken as he approached. Jenna called out to me, "Chloe, it's time to go." I quickly replied, said a hurried goodbye to the employee, and walked quickly to the SUV. This time, I headed straight for the driver's seat again. But just as I sat down, Kevin pulled the door open from the outside. "Get out. I'm driving today." I didn't move an inch, just looked at him with concern. "But you still look like you didn't get enough rest. Why don't you relax in the passenger seat this morning? I'll switch with you at lunch." Kevin's brow furrowed, and he looked like he was about to lose his temper. Jenna suddenly spoke up. "Kevin, just rest for a little while longer. Once you're feeling better, you'll have plenty of time to drive, won't you?" They were about to enter the exclusion zone. Jenna didn't want any complications. Kevin understood the hidden meaning in her words, and reluctantly got into the passenger seat with a sullen face. As soon as he sat down, he pulled out a map and placed it over the car's display screen. "Just follow this map today. Turn off the GPS. I asked, puzzled. Why? An impatient look crossed Kevin's face, and his tone was harsh. Just do as I say. Why do you have so many questions? A perfectly crafted look of hurt appeared on my face. I was just asking for a reason. Kevin, have you been treating me really badly lately? Jenna suddenly cut in. Kevin, watch your tone. They hadn't even managed to trick the person into the wilderness yet. Couldn't he just hold it in a little longer? Kevin looked back and caught Jenna's signal. He forced his anger back down, turned to me and said patiently, "You're overthinking it. I'm just still not feeling great, so I sounded a bit harsh. Just follow the map I gave you. Jenna and I planned this route in advance, it's correct." I pretended not to see their silent exchange and acted as if I was placated. "Really?" Kevin said, "Of course." I nodded, showing no suspicion, and started the car. As we got farther and farther from the rest stop, Kevin and Jenna seemed to relax completely. The farther we drove, the fewer cars we saw on the road. After about 3 hours, I saw a fork in the road up ahead. One of the roads had a large sign. Exclusion zone ahead. Frequent wildlife activity. No entry. I glanced at the map and let out a puzzled, "Huh? Is this map wrong?" I slowed down and turned to look at Kevin. But Kevin said, "It's not wrong." My brow furrowed. "This is the road to the exclusion zone?" Kevin said, "Yeah." He even smiled at me. "Don't you want to see some wild animals?" I slammed on the brakes. The sudden stop startled them both. "Why did you stop?" Kevin demanded angrily. I tried to reason with him earnestly. "Kevin, didn't you hear what the employee at the rest stop said? The exclusion zone is full of wild animals. Wolves, grizzly bears. They're all really dangerous. What if we..." What if? Kevin cut me off. "I came on this road trip to see wild animals. If it wasn't for that, why the hell would I come out here?" Jenna chimed in at that moment. "Yeah, Chloe. We're already here. And we haven't seen a single grizzly bear on the whole trip. Why don't we just head into the exclusion zone and try our luck?" "But..." I still hesitated. "But what?" Kevin said impatiently. "If you don't want to go, then get out of the car." Jenna shot Kevin a glare. "What are you talking about?" She turned to me, her face calm and her lips curved into a smile. "Chloe, don't mind him. Kevin and I researched this route thoroughly. After we enter the exclusion zone, there's a turnoff in less than 12 miles. It's an abandoned highway, but it connects back to the main interstate. Once we get to that turnoff, we'll be back on the interstate in no time. There's no danger at all." I looked conflicted, then looked at Jenna. "Really?" Jenna smiled at me. "Of course. Chloe, we're going to see wildlife, not get ourselves killed. Why would we put ourselves in danger?" Jenna said it all with such sincerity. If I didn't already know their plan, I probably would have believed her. I thought for a long moment, then acted as if I was giving in. "All right then. But did you guys bring a satellite phone?" At my question, both of their faces changed slightly. I didn't miss it. I saw Kevin subconsciously pat his jacket pocket. I calmly looked away. Jenna said, "Oh, we're not actually trekking through the wilderness. We don't need a satellite phone for this, do we?" Kevin snapped. "Why are you talking so much? Are you going to drive or not? If not, I will." Intimidated by Kevin's outburst, I finally seemed to give in, muttering, "I'm just worried something might happen. A satellite phone would give me some peace of mind. But since you both said we're only going 12 miles before getting out, I guess nothing bad will happen." With that, I gave them a smile and started the car. I ignored the warning sign, my face showing a hint of regret, and drove straight into the heart of the exclusion zone. The abandoned road hadn't seen traffic in years, and was covered in weeds and gravel. Even for our modified SUV, the driving was tough. We drove forward for nearly 2 hours, but had covered less than 10 miles. As I drove, I didn't feel anxious at all. In fact, I was in a remarkably good mood, humming a little off-key tune. But my humming once again annoyed Kevin. He snapped rudely, "Can you please shut up?" I glanced down at the phone on the car's display. Even though we had only driven a short distance, the signal was already fading in and out. It seemed Kevin's patience had run out. "Don't you like it?" I asked suddenly. Kevin's words were vicious. It's awful. You sound terrible. Then you can just go die. What? Kevin clearly hadn't expected me to say something like that. He turned to look at me, stunned. Jenna, already on high alert, didn't miss my comment either. She asked in surprise, Chloe, what kind of tone is that? In the year I'd been with Kevin, I had always been compliant, bending to his will. Even when he fought with me, I was always the one to apologize and make up. So in their eyes, I was a total pushover they could manipulate however they wanted. My sudden retort left them both in shock. But after the shock wore off, Jenna and Kevin realized something at the same time. They were just looking for a reason to start a fight with me, and here was Chloe, handing them a perfect excuse on a silver platter. Kevin's reaction was explosive. Chloe, I said one thing to you and you tell me to go die? How can you be so malicious? I always thought you were a kind person, but now I see I was completely wrong. As Kevin spoke, he seemed to get angrier and angrier, reaching for my steering wheel. That's enough. I'm not letting you drive anymore. Stop the car now. I feigned panic. Kevin, what are you doing? I'm driving. I gripped the steering wheel, refusing to let go. Kevin had completely lost his patience. He reached over and yanked the keys out of the ignition, then tried to jam his foot over to hit the brake. Seeing Jenna just sitting in the back, he shot her a glare. What are you just sitting there for? Jenna snapped out of it and quickly reached over to grab me, but her words were full of false concern. Chloe, let's just pull over. This is too dangerous. I wasn't strong enough to fight off both of them, but I was stubborn and clung to the steering wheel, refusing to let go. Kevin was furious, and Jenna was worried something would go wrong at this critical moment. Their eyes met. Kevin made the first move, wrapping his arms around me and pulling my upper body into his lap, pinning me so I couldn't move. Jenna took the opportunity to yank the handbrake and quickly twist the keys out of the ignition. I struggled violently in Kevin's arms, appearing to be in great distress. But soon, my hand brushed against a familiar rectangular object. My eyes flickered. I discreetly slipped the object into the wide sleeve of my jacket, then gave Kevin a hard shove. I finally broke free from Kevin's grasp and sat there, panting heavily. Kevin, are you insane? I think you're the one who's insane. Kevin glared at me, then gave Jenna a look and opened his door to get out. Get out of the car. Kevin yanked open the driver's side door. I was panting hard. What are you trying to do? When I didn't move, Kevin didn't waste any more words. He reached in and unbuckled my seatbelt. Get out. I'm sick of you and your sour face all day. This is my rental car. I paid for everything on this trip, and this is the attitude I get. Get out. If you don't want to be on this trip with us, then get out. Kevin grabbed my arm and started dragging me out. It was in that moment that I finally seemed to realize what was happening. Kevin, my strength was no match for Kevin's. He dragged me out of the car, then got into the driver's seat right in front of me and slammed the door shut. My eyes turned red. At that moment, I heard a distinct click, the sound of the doors locking from the inside. My pupils constricted. I finally started to look scared, reaching for the back door handle. Kevin, what are you doing? You're not actually going to leave me here. I pounded on the windows, screaming Kevin and Jenna's names. But neither of them even looked at me. After a moment, the driver's side window rolled down. Kevin threw my backpack out, his voice filled with rage. Since you hate this trip so much, you can walk yourself out. With that, the window rolled back up. Then, completely ignoring my desperate screams, Kevin and Jenna drove off, leaving me in a cloud of dust. My anguished cries echoed through the silent wilderness, but they failed to stop the SUV up ahead. Only when the vehicle had shrunk to the size of a fly in the distance did I fall silent. I stood there, watching them drive down the road of no return, straight toward their death. Kevin and Jenna would probably go to their graves without ever knowing that I had swapped their map. The first part of the map on the car's display was perfectly fine. But after entering the exclusion zone, that fateful fork in the road had been deliberately drawn in the opposite direction. The path they thought was correct was actually a one-way road deeper into the wilderness. By the time they finally realized something was wrong, the SUV's gas tank would be empty. There wouldn't be enough fuel to turn back, so they'd have no choice but to wait for rescue. But when they went to use their satellite phone, they would discover it was long gone. Sure, they could wait for rescue in the safety of the car, but besides the several large cuts of raw beef I had intentionally packed, the only food left was a small package of crackers. In these harsh conditions, the smell of blood from the beef would soon attract grizzly bears. How long could they possibly survive in that car? I suppressed my elation and tossed Kevin's satellite phone into the bushes by the side of the road. Then I opened my backpack, pulled out the satellite phone I had prepared long ago from a hidden compartment, and dialed the emergency number. The moment the call connected, I started sobbing hysterically. "Help! Help me, can you please come rescue me? I just had a fight with my boyfriend, and he left me in the middle of nowhere." Sob. In the quiet valley, only my crying could be heard. After the call ended and the rescue team had my exact coordinates, I sat down in the middle of the road, overcome with relief. Just then, the sound of an engine approached from the distance. I waited for about 5 minutes, and then I saw him. The young man from the rest stop yesterday, driving a modified SUV that pulled up in front of me. The young man got out, handed me a bottle of water, and stared at me with bloodshot eyes. After a long moment, he said, "You went through a lot." I took the water and chugged it down. The cold liquid stung my throat, and the emotions I had bottled up for so long finally came crashing down. I covered my face and squatted on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "I did it. Laura, I got revenge for you. It all started a few years ago. I was a sophomore in high school when my family was struck by a terrible tragedy. My parents died in an accident, and the compensation money was seized by my relatives. The series of blows left me completely broken. It was during this time that I met my sister, Laura. She had just graduated from law school and joined a firm. Her very first case was helping me fight my relatives for the compensation money. Even though Laura was fresh out of school, her professional skills were undeniable. Plus, I was my parents' rightful heir, so we won the case quickly. But the warmth Laura brought into my life went far beyond that. She was an incredibly good person. It pained her to see me all alone in the world. While the case was ongoing, she not only visited me often but also took me shopping, listened to me, and even had her brother, Chris, who was a high school teacher, tutor me. In the darkest year of my life, Laura was the light that came into it. With Laura's support, I gradually emerged from the darkness and was accepted into a top university in the city. College life was great, and Laura and I never lost touch. She was like a real sister to me. We would go shopping together, play video games, or just sit at my place while she cooked a feast for me. I had even started planning our future after graduation. I was going to sell the house my parents left me, buy a bigger one, and move in with Laura. Laura had agreed. We dreamed together about our wonderful future. But in the end, Laura broke her promise. A sudden accident stole her vibrant life away. When Chris called to tell me Laura had died, I was busy with my graduation thesis. After hearing his words, I fainted. When I woke up in the hospital, the first thing I did was book a flight for that night and rush to Montana. But in the end, I never got to see Laura one last time. Chris said, the way she looked at the end. I don't think she would have wanted you to see that." This man, a head taller than me, broke down in tears after saying those words. I suddenly spoke. "I don't believe it." Chris was taken aback. "You don't believe what?" I said, "I don't believe it was an accident. Laura wasn't a reckless person. She knew this area had grizzly bears. Why would she put herself in danger and go camping in a place like that? And why was she the only one who was attacked, while the other 2 people with her were completely unharmed?" Emotion flickered in Chris's eyes, but he didn't say what he was thinking. He just said, "She's gone. You need to look forward. She used to talk about you all the time. She truly thought of you as her little sister. After the funeral, you should go back to school." I ignored him, took several steps back and repeated, "I don't believe it. I don't believe it." Chris looked at me about to call out, but I had already run off. From that day on, I started investigating what happened. That's how Kevin and Jenna's names entered my life. I looked into their relationship and found out they were a couple. Laura and Jenna were classmates, but they weren't close. In fact, they had a huge fight in college that many of their classmates still remembered. So why would Laura suddenly agree to go on a trip to the mountains with Jenna? Laura was a lawyer. She didn't do things without a reason. She must have agreed to go with Jenna, because Jenna had some kind of evidence she needed to get her hands on. But I could never find that crucial piece of the puzzle. Chris knew I couldn't let go of Laura's death, and that I was secretly investigating Jenna and Kevin. He tried to meet with me several times, hoping I would drop it and move on with my life. I looked him in the eye and asked him calmly, "Have you let it go? I know everyone says it was an accident. Even the police ruled it an accident. But do you really believe that? If you believed it, you wouldn't have quit your job." Chris's head snapped up. I looked at him, my eyes filled with determination. "She wasn't just your sister. She was my sister too." "Chris." I called his name softly, just like Laura used to when she'd grab his arm and playfully beg for something. I said, "I want to get revenge for our sister together." Chris stared at me for a long time until his eyes were bloodshot. Finally, he forced a single word through his clenched teeth. "Okay." A relieved smile finally spread across my face. Before I left, I asked Chris one more question. "Why did Jenna and Kevin kill Laura?" Chris said, "Because Jenna embezzled company funds after she started working. Laura must have found some evidence, but that evidence is gone now." I nodded. Whatever the reason, Jenna and Kevin had to die. After graduation, I got a job at the same company as Jenna. Following my plan, step by step, I became friends with her. Laura was a lawyer. Everything she did had to follow the law. But I wasn't. I got close to Jenna with only one goal. I wanted them dead. From that day on, Jenna and I became closer and closer. And when I accidentally let slip how much I had in savings, Jenna became even warmer toward me. A month later, through Jenna, I successfully met Kevin. During the year I dated him, Kevin and Jenna didn't initially have any intention of killing me. But I wanted their lives. How could I let that happen if they didn't want to kill me first? So I constantly flaunted my wealth in front of Kevin, and showed off my superiority in front of Jenna. Finally, one day, as I walked past Jenna carrying a new Chanel bag, I saw it in her eyes. An unmistakable glint of jealousy she could no longer hide. How could a murderer who had already gotten away with faking an accidental death possibly turn back to the straight and narrow? Especially since they knew I had no other family. Once I was dead, Kevin, as my boyfriend, could legally inherit all of my assets. It was from that day on that Kevin started picking fights with me constantly. The plan I had custom made for them was finally kicking off. An hour later, to avoid arousing suspicion from the rescue team, Chris had to leave. Before he left, he stuffed a can of bear spray and a dagger into my backpack. Still worried, he took a string of firecrackers from his car. "You don't have to keep this on you. Just toss it in the bushes nearby." Before he could finish, I cut him off. "Chris, the rescue team will be here in 10 minutes, tops. It's just 10 minutes. Nothing will happen. You should go." Chris looked at me, his eyes red. I gave him a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, everything will be fine." After all, Chris had driven this road alone countless times, just to ensure my safety. 10 minutes later, I was safely in the rescue vehicle. I didn't stop crying the entire time, constantly telling the accompanying officer about my helplessness and terror, playing the part of an abandoned, desperate young woman to perfection. No one would suspect me. After giving a simple statement at the police station, they let me go. Without hesitation, I booked the earliest flight out of the state. The rest was up to Chris. The holiday weekend ended. My phone remained silent. I received no news about Kevin or Jenna. But on the first day back at work, Jenna's seat was empty. I fought to contain my excitement and returned to my desk. After waiting quietly for 2 more days, a news story finally hit #1 on the trending charts. Couple illegally drives into wilderness exclusion zone. Mauled to death by grizzly bear. At the same time, I received a call from the local police. The knot in my stomach finally loosened. That night, I took the last flight back out west. At the police station, I cried my eyes out. The police had recovered the dashcam footage, which proved my innocence. In fact, if I hadn't had a satellite phone with me, I would have likely met the same fate as Kevin and Jenna. No one suspected me. The case was closed, but the online discussion raged on through the night. Some people called Kevin and Jenna stupid, others said they got what they deserved. But most people said that the dead should be left in peace and there was no need for such harsh words. How could there not be? With some help from me and Chris, the video of Kevin and Jenna abandoning me in the wilderness and driving away quickly went viral online. This time, the comment section was unanimous, with everyone calling them heartless monsters. Some netizens even speculated that Kevin and Jenna had done it on purpose. They just never imagined they would be the ones to fall into their own trap, hoisted by their own petard. In the end, even their gruesome deaths couldn't save them from the public's condemnation. 2 months later, I quit my job. The day I left, Chris was waiting downstairs to pick me up. Seeing him, I handed him the file I was holding and smiled. "Are you done making trips out west?" Chris smiled and nodded. "Yeah, I'll stay home from now on. Spend more time with my parents, and more time with Laura." I smiled and nodded, then went back to their house for dinner. Over the years, his parents had come to see me as their own daughter. That afternoon, our whole family went to the cemetery to visit my sister. Finally, in front of Laura's grave, I played her a video. It was the full recording of Kevin and Jenna being attacked by the grizzly bear. I sat before Laura's headstone, a faint smile on my face. "Laura, I got revenge for you." The end.